Shus der Morde Asre. Like to talk Yonim Noigim Nishvuas. We'll see. Maybe we'll, as much as time will enable us to do justice to what's being learned here. The Rav also said that we should say a couple words of Chizuk L'Regel HaMatzav. So we'll see where we are. Everybody knows the very famous story of Shmuel HaNovi on Shaul HaMelech. Shmuel HaNovi is Metzave Shaul to be Machris Amalek, and Shaul does not do the job the way he was prescribed to do. And as a result, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Shmuel to tell Shaul, Korah Hashem es Malochis, Yisrael Ma'alechu Nesona L'Reach Ha'atoiv Mimeko, V'gam Netzach Yisrael Lo Yeshaka V'lo Yechozev. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took away the Malchus from Shaul and gave it over to David, to his son-in-law. Shmuel doesn't see Shaul anymore. Shaul goes up to Beisoy Givas Shaul. Shmuel does not see him anymore. And then there's a fascinating parak, the following parak in Sefer Shmuel Aleph parak to Zion, and we'll say the story fast. Vayomer Hashem l'Shmuel ad Mosai ato mis'abel el Shaul v'ani me'astiv mimloich al Yisrael male karnecho shemen v'leich eshlachacho el Yishai beis halachmi ki ro'isi bevonov li melech. Stop mourning Shaul. Shaul's era is over. Go to Beis Lechem, from wherever you are, wherever Shmuel HaNovi was sitting at the time, also Shaila, and go to Beis Lechem and take karnecho shemen, fill up an oil because Melachim needs Mishicha. V'leich eshlachacho el Yishai beis halachmi, go to Yishai's house, there in Yishai's house, ki ro'isi bebonov li melech. I'm not telling you who it is, but I'm just telling you, go there to pick up a king from the sons of Yishai. Vayomer Shmuel eich elech v'shom hashol v'haragani is still in the tkufa of in between. More shteitach segiven leyotza tivacha ba'ilam. There was still a tkufa where David did not become a melech and Shaul is still in dimdumei chama. Vayomer Hashem eglas boker tikach biyodecha v'amart lizboyach laHashem bosi. Meland kachim nishtokin shum problem. Take eglas boker and be zoiveach there. V'korosa leYishai bazovach. Call Yishai to be with you in the zevach. V'anoichi oidiacho es asher ta'aseh u'moshachto li es asher oimar elecho. Vayomer vayal Shmuel asher diber Hashem vayomer beis lechem vayechedu zikni ha'ir likrosa vayomer Shaul beyecho psagastin shtetl. Shmuel HaNovi kommt rein in Beis Lechem. There's a guest in town. Vayomer Sholim lizboyach laHashem bosi iskachu bosim iti bazovach vayekadesh es Yishai ve'ezbono vayikro lehem lazovach. Okay, so Yishai brings his 7 sons. He had 7 sons. We'll see soon if he has 7 or maybe he has 8, and he has 2 daughters. And he tells them to bring them all to Zovach, to eat together with them the feast that Shmuel is sacrificing to Hashem. Vayibevoyom, vayares Eliov, vayomer ach neged Hashem meshichoy. This is the guy. Walked in. He was a tall, good-looking man. He says, "This is the guy. This is the Mashiach Hashem." Vayomer Hashem el Shmuel al tabeit el mareu vel gvoy hakoimosoi ki meisitiu ki lo yasher yire odom ki odom yire la'inayim v'Hashem yire la'levov. Good looking is not a credential in picking up the next Melech Yisrael. So you think he's good looking, he's tall, gvoy maheres, when heche, wie heche gewinnt steht in Medrash Yalkut Shmuel. He was around 6'4", according to Chaim Kanievsky's measurements. Okay? He says, don't. Vayikra el Avinodav. Yishai calls the next son Avinodav. He's also good looking. Vayavireu lifnei Shmuel, vayomer gam bazel lebocher Hashem. Vayaver Yishai sham, vayomer gam bazel lebocher Hashem. Vayaver Yishai shivas bonov lifnei Shmuel. He goes one after the other. Everybody passes through the security check, And each and every one gets a negative answer. No, you are not the one. Is that it? Is there anybody else in town? Vayomer oid shoar hakoten ve'ine roye batzoin. Vayomer Shmuel Elisha shilcha vekochenu ki loy nosoiv ad boyoy po. There's a kleine ingele dort in Feld. Vayishlach vayavienu ve'u admoini. He was a redhead, a gingy. Im yefeh naim v'toiv roi. Vayomer Hashem ku meshocheu ki zehu. Vayikach Shmuel lekeren Hashem vayim she'oseh bekeva titzlach ruach Hashem el Dovid me'ayoyim ha'u v'amolo vayokom Shmuel vayelech haramos. This chapter, this parak, is a very, very, I would say, is a very uncommon phenomenon. Kuntarai Shmuel HaNovi. Shmuel HaNovi was a Novi. It's no monkey business. He's a Novi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, go to Yishai's house. In the house, one of the children is ready to be the next Melech Yisrael. He comes, he says, please line up all your children. And Yishai brings 7 children, although he has an 8th one. HaKotten. We'll soon see how old was this Kotten. Okay? Should I tell you? 28 years of age. Okay? So Yana Kleiner Gingy, he is Basada, he's not there. And he asks him, Atamu an Neorim, is that all? So it doesn't say some kind of a gap or some kind of a void. There is a discrepancy. The Medrash says, you look at the Medrash in the Yalkut, he asks him, Atamu, Vayoyma Eglav Yishai Tamu. Yes, indeed, that's it. I'm not stupid. You told me HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked to bring by Zevach all my children. I brought all of them. I'm not going to go ahead. Bei uns, Slabot kefek bezongen, von uns genug 3 Mal. We enough. 3 times, we know already. I don't have to. You told me to bring all of them. Who is Yishai? Yishai is Rosh Sanhedrin. Yishai steht in Gemara, gewesen einer von den 4 Menschen, shemeisu be'etyoi shel Nochosh. Yusuf Mekabla HaTorah, und the Gemara in Brochos Nunches steht that Yishai was Yoitzebu Uchlusa Vekamo Uchlusa Shishim Riboy. He had 600,000 Talmidim. Rosh Sanhedrin, who died, only 4 people in the history of Klal Yisrael died b'shel Etya Shel Nochosh. So we're not talking about a guy who's trying to pull off a fast one. Talking about Yishai, Rosh Sanhedrin, a tzaddik, a godel. He has a yeshiva of 600,000 Talmidim, and he has Shmuel HaNovi. Shechina medaberes mit HaGoyshes, bring all your children, and he asks him, Atamu HaNeorim, and he answers him in Yalkut, Tamu. Omar le Shmuel Yishai, Hashem Omar Meshichi beveisoi ve'at Omar Tamu. Because Baruch Hu tells me, Mashiach, no, one second. And really, in the retrospect, see, don't know Haklein Gingy. He's there in the backfield. Call him over. Game over. He's Dovid Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kai. So tonight, maybe we'll try to give an answer to this fascinating phenomenon. So one of the questions my grandfather asked me when I was a little child, wie viel deures do von Avrom Avinu bis Dovid HaMelech? Of course I didn't know. I was 7 years old. But he rattled it off. Avrom, Yitzchok, Yaakov, Yehuda. Yehuda has 2 sons, Peretz and Zerach. Peretz has a son, Chetzron, who has a son, Rom, who has a son, Aminodov, who has a son, Nachshon. Nachshon ben Aminodov, alle Wesen from Pesach, for the story, for the children. You come back, jump to the water. Nachshon ben Aminodov had 4 Kinder. Also steht in the sugia Amoni, Baba Basradov, Tzadik Aleph, Amud Aleph. Elimelech. Mr. Elimelech, who we're going to read about him in the Megilas Rus. Avi Noemi, the father of Noemi, his wife, he married his niece. Uncle Toiv, who is called Toiv, but he's known a.k.a. in the Megillah as plain Amoni. And Salmoin Avi Boyaz, who is called Salmoin in Divrei Yomim and Megilas Rus. He interchanges if he's called Salmo or Salmoin, but it's the same person. So let's move again. Nachshon ben Aminodov has 4 children, and for the move away from Elimelech, Go a second to his younger brother. He was the youngest, Salmon, and he's the father of Boaz, who is Megilas Rus, who has a son, Ovid, who has a son, Yishai, who has a son, Dovid. It says 14th generation, very clear and simple. Story of the Megillah is, haMelech goes down, Bishas Harov, his wife, he was nenash because he went out from Eretz Yisrael to Chutzlaretz. Few shot him in the Gemara, but he's going out from Eretz Yisrael to Chutzlaretz. He has two sons, Machlin and Kilian. One marries Orpah, and one marries Rus. Rus is a daughter / the granddaughter / great granddaughter. Totally 3 midrashim. Ukemevur astiris besugia sagmora be nazir da flamed tesis dorten. Gemara steht bitoy shel eglim melech moev. But it doesn't make a difference. She's a daughter. It doesn't stem. If you look at the historical biography, she can't be a daughter of eglim melech moev. So she's a granddaughter or a great granddaughter, according to Tesis. But she is marrying to who? In the Megillah state, Tesis in Ksubis Davzayin al Bei state that Rus was married to Machlin and Kilian. She was married to both. She was an Amoni from both. One brother died, she married the other. And now she's a young woman. Question how young she was? Not so simple also. Steers in Midrashim. And she's Tzahadin. She's available for marriage. At those days, Yom Marishaim, steht in Ramban in Parshas Vayeshev, there used to be a minhag to marry your kroiva within the family as a concept of yibum. As I state in Ramban, Tamar is marrying Yehuda, who is her father-in-law, because she was a wife, Oinon, both of them. He didn't give it to Sheila, but he marries her as a yibum, hakim. So a vote for yibum. Ganz arichas in Ramban in Sefer Bereshis in Parshas Vayeshev. So she's available right now to remarry. So in the sugia of Yibum, there is halacha koroiv koidem. You give a right of first refusal to the one who is closest blood relative to the almana who is available for marriage. Who is the right of first refusal? So if we go in the generation, Machlin Bekil, the father is Elimelech. Avi Noemi is dead a long time ago. Salmon Avi Boaz is dead. And the only one from the generations of the sons of Nachshon ben Aminadov is really Uncle Pliny Almoin. So he is the one to marry her first refusal. If we move away from the generation, we go a generation further. Boaz, who's the son of Salmon, he's a first cousin to her husband, Machlin / Kilian. He was the first cousin of her husband, whereby Uncle Pliny Almoini / Toiv is an uncle of her late husband's Machlin and Kilian. So the uncle should have a right of first refusal, and that's what's going on in the Megillah. When you falsch schlofen dort in Nefri, that's what's going on in the Megillah. They come to the uncle, they ask him, go ahead and marry her. I don't want. Why? Says Rashi, pen efgoim bezari, nachalosi min zari, kemoi nachalas Hashem bonim. Rashi brings the pasuk, v'tor be'amoini v'lo yamoini. He made a mistake. He thought it says lo yov amoini b'chlal Hashem. She is egloim melech moyov, so she's moyavis rusa moivia. And if there is no halacha of amoini v'lo yamoinis, so she's also lo b'kol, doesn't want to marry her. Medrash state harishayim lo meisu. Why did my two nephews die? They were in makpid. They took moyavios. So I'm going to be the next one. Don't want. But he doesn't say I don't want because I'm afraid I'm going to die. He says pen ashri, says nachalosi, pen ef goyim bezari, because I'm going to create a genetic mutation whereby my kinderlach einiklach are going to be klein and moyavimlach. Not interested. I'm passing on it. Go to Boaz. We know that all chayvelavim, moyavi, Amoni, Adoimi, Mitzri, Shtuki, Nisnosin, all the chayvelavim is a dual, is double aveira. Number one, you're not going to marry chayvelavim. We don't pass because the kiddushin ain't toifsim chayvel. Kiddushin is toifsim chayvelavim. About upon a yisur yidot, there's a yisur to be bam chayvelavim. The mutorim zebezeh, some of them are mutor zebezeh, but a regular Yisrael is usher to marry an asina, mamzeres, a mitzris, till mitzri shlishi. Amoni, if Amoni v'Amonis Amoni v'Amonis says no problem. Adumis, you're not allowed to marry. Furthermore, if you do marry Adumis, then the halacha is that the children become klein Adumim. If you marry Amonis and there is no halacha of Amoni v'Amonis, the kids will become. Freit Marsha, If that's true that he was toya and he didn't know this halacha of Amonis, so why is he saying to Rutzim, my kinder, how do you know you're going to have children? Forget about it. The reason why you're not allowed to marry her because he's not allowed to marry Chayv. What do you have to come to the Rutzim? Omar, Osu, I don't want, lo yuchal ligo, ki Amonis, fatik. As I frag the Marshal, sag the Marshal, mir dikavot. But by Emes, every Chayv the Gemara in Yevomis, Nafchafel and Bei, steht the Gemara as Almoni, the Kohen Gadol, there is no din Yibum. But Doyos Arishonim steht in Ramban, there was a mitzvah Yibum by Shark Raving. And by Emes, every Chayv should be theoretically a halacha that Esa Deichel Leisase, Almoni, the Kohen Gadol, Gusha V'chalus. So the Gemara in Yevomis, Nafchafel and Bei, why don't you have Esa Deichel the Gemara? Because the Esa is no Bir Rishayna. And Bir Shnia, you don't have Esa. And Gazrina and Bir Shnia, Bir Rishayna atu Bir Shnia. Because since this next beer you don't have a heter anymore, there's no Esa Deichel Leisase. Zog the Marsho ve'kanire shebeoiso ha'eis adayin legozru Bir Rishayna atu Bir Shnia. This Gzeira was post Boaz era. So Mimele, he himself could marry her. Why? Because even if he doesn't darsh it halacha of Amonis and the Chayv Elavim sheboy rota mitzvah sesa from Yibum, this fictitious, this Doyos Arishonim dike Yibum, and there'll be halacha of Esa Deichel Leisase. Aber klappe de Kinder von deswegen, you know, at the end of the day, even if you marry her, you have a het of Esa Deichel Leisase, you are creating this genetic mutation of Kleine Amonim, and that he didn't want. And everybody attacks the Marashom Imonov. If you have a halach of Esa Deichel Leisase and you have a mitzvah sasei, so what's the heter? Because you can have Kleine Amonim, the mitzvah sasei, fatik. Every Esa Deichel Leisase, you have a mitzvah. Why is in the world the fact that you may create a genetic mutation will be alleviate you from the obligation that you have because of the mitzvah sasei from Yibum, which is the mitzvah sasei of Yibum? As I frage all the Mashal. Comes again the Brisker and says as follows. Right. So you oiker the Gzeres Atayah b'Sheva al Taisa, but you have a mitzvah sasei. You have a mitzvah sasei, which is a din every Esa Deichel Leisase. Every Esa Deichel Leisase says the Sheva al Taisa. Don't be mekayim the Esa, and you're not going to be able to Deichel the Leisase. Auf dem steht mit darf machen a mitzvah sasei. Das ist doch der din for the. Oh, okay. The Rav fragt a gute Ore, you know, I don't want to deviate because I want to be maspik something and I was mechayev an expiration time. All right. Zog the Brisker Azeh. There is a phenomenal Gemara in Yevomis Dafayim Yevomis Beis. The Gemara says, when the Ma'aseh of Dovid and Goliath happened, and Dovid is kleine Gingy, is hit him with a stone. This Plishti, the Goliath Plishti was a giant. So Shaul asked, this is before Shaul is excommunicated, a little bit before, not too much, 2 months before the Ma'aseh happened, before Milchemes HaMolech, that Shaul was chayte. But David is already around, a little kid, and he says, who is this kid? Who is this kid? Who is this kid? Everybody was chickening out from Shaul, from Goliath HaPlishti, comes again, a Ingel, a Waft, a Steindl, he's talking Goliath HaPlishti. Who is this child? So he tells him, Kumtz again, Doeg Hadoimi. Doeg Hadoimi was a troublemaker throughout history. Anybody that knows, there were 2 people together. One of them was Doeg Hadoimi. It was Meis Bechatzi Yomo, steht der ganze Gemara, Anshe Mirme, Vedomim lo yechze Yemeim, V'ani yechze Boch. That's Doeg Hadoimi. Doeg Hadoimi, Kumtz again, in Alamden. And Avner ben Ner, who was the Sar Hatzovo in the army of David. There were the 2 Lomdim. One of them was a troublemaker, one was trying to alleviate the trouble. Comes again, he says, you guys have a super new guy, a new kid on the block, a new king coming up. It's not right. My time is awesome. Omar Loi, Avner, Tonino, Amonis. We learned Amonis. Omar Loi, Elomato, Mamzim, Mamzeres. Mitzvah mitzvahs. If you make such a drosha that when the Torah says Amonis b'lo shezocher, it means to exclude nekeva. Mitzvah mitzvahs, mamzel mamzeres. Omalei mumzar ksiv. Mumzar doesn't make a difference. Bekitzer, the Gemara goes back and forth. He says, "Shalekid moeschem balechem u'bamayim darko shalish lekadem ve'en darko shalish lekadem." So, mele is no reason to be excommunicated in the caves. No, oil the kadem anoshim l'kras anoshim anoshim l'kras noshim. The women should have bestowed their hospitality towards women and men towards men. Ishtik. Didn't know. You don't know the halacha? Go ask the Besmedrash. He went into the Besmedrash. Now, ich darf sich vorstellen, wie sie ausgesehen der Besmedrash von Dovid haMelech, von Shaul haMelech, aber sie gesetzt in dort in der Größe Oilon von Talmidei Chacham. They asked him, what's the story? What's the fate of this young man? Omrulei Taninu, Amoni v'Amonis. Actually, Doye Kolana Kushiyos. Doye comes and asks all these questions. Ishtiku. They were quiet. Bolach Ruzale. Yerushalayim Yido Ayid says Kletzkin. I don't know if people know here. But Kletzkin is the guy who was in charge of the Tzetlach. You know, if somebody dies, before the Chevra Kadisha comes, the Tzetlach up, the microphones are around. Bolach was Mishin Geruf and Kletzkin. Go ahead, be Machriz. There, David was Mivil Machrifa Kenig is not Roy Lovabeko. Miad V'Amoso Ben Yeser. Yeser was the husband of Avigail, who was the sister of David. Aplomenik from David, Melamed Shechogar Charboy Shishmuel Ve'omar Kol Misheine Shemei Aloch Zu Yidoka Mecherev. Kach Mekublani Beistinu Shel Shmuel Aramosi Amoni v'Amoni Smavel Me'amas. 2 minutes later, David is crowned. What's happening here? Gangen Bayem, Badet Talmid Chol, Bayen Talmid Chol, Gangen Besmedrash, Yishvigen. Comes a guy, he pulls out a knife. These days is very modern. You pull out a knife, you say Allah Akbar, Aleidik. What was this chag? Zog the Biskarov as follows. Beautiful fort. The emissaries we're holding by Matan Torah. Torah has 2 halakim. You have Torah Shebiksav, which was given to Moshe, and then you have Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebal Peh is divided to 2 different elements. Azevis Imevur and Rambam Barucho from Perek Aleph through Perek Hey Milchos Mamrim, the last volume in the Rambam. Torah Shebal Peh, which is called Hamitzvah, is mechulak to 2 halakim. Number 1 is halacha l'Moshe Messina, which is machlekes the Rambam said. You're going how many halacha l'Moshe Messina? Anywhere between 35 to 3,800 halacha l'Moshe Messina that there were there, which were miskabel midor l'dor 42 generations from one to another passed on. There's another chelik of Torah Shebal Peh, which is Yud Gimel Midas Shater in the Dreshes Ben, which is every morning by davening, Kal V'Chem Binyanav, Gzeir Hashem V'Klal V'Partu etc., etc. What's the difference? Halacha l'Moshe Messina is given as is, ketzurosa, can't be tampered, can't be modified. The Yud Gimel Midas Shater in the Dreshes B'Hem is Kodesh Baruch Hu gave Yud Gimel Midas und gesetzt in every generation the Chacham Sheboi Sado u'me'akoiches Loshan HaRambam Nakdov Mishte Pirush HaMishnah in Zorim u'me'akoiches Anim Shokas HaLev. They take those protim and they dash azay, danin kal v'choim, smuchin, not smuchin, klal u'prat, zera shova, ribui miyut u'ribui. What's the difference between the 2 elements, the both Torah Shebal Peh? What's the chiluk? The Hamazay. By halacha, which is learned from Yud Gimel Shater and Dreshes B'Hem, if Beis comes and constitutes halacha kal v'choim. Then comes a generation later another Beis. So the halacha is in Beis yochel levatel divra Beis chaver and ken godel med b'chochma b'minyan. But if it's godel med b'chochma b'minyan, harei she'omdu Beis Din b'doyer shachem lo shenaramba v'rou tam u'svor tzayir chasho lilmoid v'lifroik v'lahakshos, and they took it apart. So subject to the halachas of ein Beis yochel levatel b'doyer chaver, they can uproot the previous Beis. Divrei kabbalah b'hem achleikas la'ilam. But something which you have a kasha on a what's his name? Alocha b'shu Kenny's. Chavasir shreit chayv kaim chosid nezek tzroiros mishloksach. The Gemara in case on a regular. How could it be? It's divrei alocha b'hem achleikas la'ilam. Let's put it on this side. Zog the Briskerov, the halacha was there. The question, the dilemma that the doyeg, that the goyel, the uncle Pliny Almoni and Boyaz had, is that the uncle thought that the halacha of Yud Gimel Midas Shater and Nidreshes B'Hem Der Din Amoni V'Amonis is one of the halachas which is Nidrash, and he had a shtickle support. Boyaz Ola Ashar steht in Targum, steht in more in Sugias, more in Ksubas Davzayin on the base, to Darsham LeMidrash LeFarsam halacha. For number, what's in the Farsam the halacha? Feist, it's one of the halachas which is from Yud Gimel Midas Shater and Nidreshes B'Hem. Doesn't say V'lo Yoda. Rashi says V'to'o be'amoini v'lo amonis. He made a mistake. He misinterpreted which branch of Torah Shebal Peh this derives from. So he comes along and says like this: Me personally, right now, to marry Rus, I don't have any problem. Why? Because the Gedarshet, Boaz was standing there, Darshet Allah HaMelech Amonis. But it is only Yud Gil Mishat in Dreshet. Was hat sein Übermorgen? He was through his prediction, through his periscope, he looked in time tunnels, was hat sein 100 Jahre rum, et kommen nach zweite Beisdin, ha-Iber Chochem, hat geben ein Dreh mit den Fingern, well, me'ato mamze v'loi mamzeres, el me'ato mitzvah v'loi mitzvahs. He's was hat sein, klappe mir, I'm marrying her right now, I have no problem. There is no problem. Not like the Marshal says, there's no problem, because right now the halacha is neither Shamoin v'lo Amonis. But if this halacha ever down the road will be uprooted because mit adrei mit finger as if givem badrega adoimi, then they're going to make my kleine ediklach, Dovid haMelech, they're going to start making him to a Amoin v'lo Amonis. Don't want it. Boaz knew it's halacha l'meishim misin, as if she steht in Rambam Perek Yudches Misur Biya halacha l'meishim misin Amoin v'lo Amonis. Halacha l'meishim misin that can come from Heid bis Übermorgen. Kach mekublani, the mistake that they made throughout the entire Besmedrash of Dovid haMelech, mit Doyeg, mit Avde Bnai, they missed the boat. They thought it was a kasha, mi ken opschlagen. Ich hab ein grobere Finger. Ich bin Gott und meine Bechochme bebinyen. Amos ben Yeser, kach mekublani, me Beis-Dina, Shmuel Amos, steht in Rambam, ist nicht meine Wort, es steht in Smag beferish, v'halacha l'meishim misina, amoin v'lo Amonis. Halacha l'meishim, was ta kasha? Vav bizlei la-seder, put it together with the notes. But it's not going to uproot the halacha of Amoni v'lo Amoni. Trotz them that you have a good or a good kasha elo me'ato mamzer v'lo mamzer. At kan divrei biskaro. The question, however, is it's puzzling. Boaz is sitting there. Boaz kovesh esitzrei roish Sanhedrin. Boaz is sitting there, and obviously when you kach mekublan bezdin sheshmuel aramos, the Torah goes down generation after generation, generation after generation. So apparently, there is definitely some kind of a Messiah. Where is Shmuel Ramasi get it from? You heard it from his Rebbe. So, who comes along if it is the halacha the Moshe Sinai? Where did it get cut off that they coming right now to dreh me the finger? That's the question which is being asked. Was asked by Reb Velvel Chechik, who he asked it to Moshe Mordechai Schlusinger, and mihakt. I would like to suggest the following. I told Reb Chaim Kanievsky many years ago, and I got a nod, some kind of approval. I would like to say as follows. I don't have time to be mayrich, but I got news for you. B'shor Moshe Rabbeinu dies steht nicht more in Tmur daf Tezayin Amud Aleph. B'shor Moshe Rabbeinu, b'shor niftar Moshe legan Eden, Psalm Dikalosh. Omar Yeshua, Shal Klum Yesh Beyotchos Fekes. Omar Yeshua, you are writing about me. Mishosem Yeshua benu Nagli Yomish Mitoich Ohel. Is anything? Nothing. Miyad Yus Goyrem Moshe Rabbeinu Tev Chalishes Hadas v'nishtakhu imenu. How many? 300 halaches, 700 kavachoyim b'masnis etano, 300 halaches. Ve'aval pichen echziren oisniel ben kenaz mitoich pilpula, and as a gift he got to marry Achso bas Kollel, kedemavur be'arucho besugia sagmor betmur daf tezayin amud aleph. I would like to know, Zokt Rashi, and I would read the Loshen Rashi, steht in Rashi, that who is the one ונשתכחו ממנו מיהושע בן נון בעוון שגורם להחליש דעתו של מוישה שנצטער מוישה על יהושע בעצמו שגורם כמוישה. So Yeshua is getting a punishment. Now let's go to the scripts. Let's go to Mesiras HaTorah. steht in Rambam Akdamot Yarach HaZok, and this is Erev Shavuos, is something you should be known. אף על פי שלא נכתב בתורה שבעל פה לימד מוישה רבנו כולו בבייס דין לשבעים זקנים. ואלעזר ופנחס v'Yehoshua shloshtom kiblu mimoshe. The three channels that people are accepting from Moshe: Elazar, Pinchas, and Yeshua. Ve'liyeshua shu talmida shel Moshe mosa Torah shebal peh v'tzivo aleh. V'chen Yeshua kol yomei chayav lomad al peh. V'zkenim rabim kiblu b'Yeshua. V'kibel eli min azkenim u'mipinchas. V'Shmuel kibel me'elu beis din. So I would like to know. First of all, I got news for you. If you learn Tanakh, you'll know that Pinchas did not live with Klal Yisrael. He lived in Givat Pinchas, which was a way because of the Ma'aseh from Yiftach, he had to go, he was not together with Gans Klal Yisrael. Pinchas, right, is Kibel Eli Minazkein. Moshe gave it to Yeshua, Elazar, and Pinchas. Okay, and then to Yeshua's Metzave, Yeshua gave it to the Zkenim, and Zkenim Rabim Kibel me Yeshua. Vekibel Eli has two channels. He learned Torah 2, channel 1 and channel 2. Minazkenim and Pinchas. So the Zkenim is Mekabel via Yeshua channel. But he's also Mekabel from Pinchas, who lives Me'achre Harore Choshech. Question why he didn't come. He did come. He wasn't there. And Eli is Mekabel from Pinchas and from the Zkenim. And Shmuel is Mekabel from Pinchas, from Eli. So it comes out, theoretically, Zog the Bris Kerov, that all these halachas that Shochachum v'chozer v'yizdum, those the halachas that were forgotten by Yoshua. And those halachas were reconstituted, which later on Zog the Bris Kerov, although they look exactly the same halachas, but it being that it's mitoich pulpuloi, the validity of those halachas is only Yud Gimel Midas, resulting in that those halachas could be uprooted later. If it was the same halacha, far the shikha, so the halacha of halacha mishmisim, which can be uprooted. But if it is indeed after the rejuvenation, the reconstitution, it belongs a halacha of mitoich popula, it belongs to Gilmi the Shater and Dreshes. Right, 100%. Shmuel Aramasi had his channel too. And he was mekabel kach mekublan b'zdinish Shmuel Aramasi Amonis v'Amonis ich bin Amonis v'Amonis. I'm telling you right now that this is halacha Meshuas mekabel. The Adre Yeshua ben Nun forgot. He got a punishment, and those halachas were recounted. Kenu and mekabel only from Yoshua. They got it already. Al Sosniel ben Knas reconstitution with the Goyen state in Safra Ditznius, so that Yeshua helped out Osniel ben Kenas to bring it back. But it doesn't change the status. It is, in essence, Yud Gimel Midas Shater and Dreshes. So we have over here channel 2. And channel 2 is, so Meile, Kach Mekublan Bizdin Shmuel Aramasi. Shmuel Aramasi is Avachol Meishim State in the Rambam. Meile lost Takashe, blind me the Kashe. So this is what I wanted to suggest once upon a time. And therefore, you could have two people sitting in a room. One was Mekabel the Torah through a shikha, or reconstitution. And this very same halacha, which looks the same, smells the same, in essence, it is the same, but it is Yud Gimel Midas Shater and Dresh because Nishtakach v'chozer v'yizdum. And the other one, which was never Nishtakach, bleibs halacha l'meshimesina, hos takashe, bleib mit takashe. I want to tell you a story. You'll hear the story and you'll poshut not believe. It's Michael Zain. I wrote it on my telephone because I didn't have papers, I didn't have a printer. Steht a Yalkut. Steht a Yalkut. Yishai, ich gewinne a Frume. Somebody came to Yishai after having 10 children. 10? He had 7 plus 1 plus 2 girls. Yishai at that time was 68 or 69. 68 and a half. Okay, let's make it short. And he told him, Weißt doch, you know your story with, do you know that Boaz, dein Zayde Boaz, told Yishai, the son of Oivizah, died in the very same night he married Rus? This whole Maise, he given one night Maise. 2 days before Boaz loses his wife, 2 days later he marries Rus, the next morning, Ois, gestorben. She's pregnant, and Dovid HaMelech kommt raus from their pregnancy. So he comes over to tell him, he said, why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu kill Boaz? You know what? Uncle pointed out when he was back. As I state the Medrash. So do a Sefer Torah Samincho von Rabbi Yankiv Skili, was ich wende Talmud Arashbo. Bringt der Yalkut Amechiri, was steht dort in der Meise dort. He says, you know what? You are Amoni. There's no such a thing, Amoni, but Amonis. Scared him. He was a tzaddik afrum. He says, the weiß was, du bist Amoni, kennst dich, gamar, nu finish, you are Amoni, Assalam Michoel. Boaz went over to his wife, and he says, mein Teire, Ishai went over to his wife. He says, "My entire Altichke, with all due courtesy, and there is a Isur because his Chayvelam is not allowed to live with her. From Heint on, 2.5 years later, somebody comes over to him and tells him, Hashem said, so you still got to have more kids. He went over to the Shifcha of his wife, Shifcha Knainis. He said, I want to have a chat with you. It's a Yalkut which is brought down by the Rashba. He said to her, you know what? I want to have more children. So I'm going to give you a get shiur al tnai. If the halacha is Amoni ve'Amonis, in other words, there's no exclusion of Amoni ve'Amonis, and Grandpa Boyaz who made a mistake, and ich ben Amoni, also lo bekol. So your star shiur is null and void. And the Amoni, Chayvelavim, is mutar b'shivcha, she has a isur leisi akdeisha, so you bleibe b'shivcha, and I can live with you. If the halacha is, ich weiß nicht, Amoni ve'lo Amonis, I'm gebracht das in Shuve. If the halacha is Amoni ve'lo Amonis, so then I'm a Belchayim. So then I can be Baal you because I'm the Yisuf L'Yeh Kodesh, L'Siyah K'deisha, you're not allowed to marry a Shivcha. So the Shichur is Chal. So we're going to meet together tonight in the Butkale outside in the hut. Here is the get. He gave her the get and he said, we're going to live tonight. Ich will auch mehr Kinder. She heard the Maise. She went over to Mrs. Yishai. Anybody in town knows what's the name of Mrs. Yishai? There's a prize on the exit. If somebody could tell me what's the name of the mother of Dovid HaMelech. It's not possible. In any event, they went over to Mrs. Yishai. And she says, I think your husband is a little off. Amashu. She tells her the story. And she says, my husband haven't been with me for 3 years because of this frumkeit. Go ahead. She says, I'm not doing that. Take my clothes. She took off her clothes. She says, you go instead of me. He did not know the difference between his wife and the Shivcha. She was worried about God of the Shivcha. 3 months later, she's pregnant with David. Kumt Eliyav and Avinadav. And they come over to the father and say, the mama Mazadagiven, we know that you excommunicated, you don't live together. Shh, sei still. They're going to say, you mamzeyem lach also. Be quiet. Says Yishai, let's keep him at home. Muzar ho'isi le'echai v'nochri le'beisimi zog Dovid HaMelech in Tilim Sabachtes. I was muzar. I was excommunicated. Push him off to the field. Don't let him into the house. He's not one of ours. Mommy head. Unochdem comes again. 28 years later. For 28 years, this kid is excommunicated. Comes again. Shmuel Hanavi sagt, Tamu an Orim, Tamu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu oime Meshicha b'Beis Isha v'ata oime Tamu? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says Meshicha b'Beis Isha. How could you say Tamu? The coin dropped. Damals hat verstanden Yishai die ganze Meise, aber be'emes ist sein eigener Sohn als ein Sohn. David Melech Yisrael chai v'kayom. We learn, we weiß gar nicht. You look at the Gemara at the end of our Psachim. Steht die Gemara, Omar Rav Shmuel, Bar Nachman, Omar Rabbi Yonasan, Oid choki nisani Omar Dovid. Even moasu haboinim oisol leroishpina Omar Yishai. Zog the Rashbo. Even moasu haboinim. The parents were moyes. The father, Yishai, was moyes. The ganze Halal was ihm gesagt eint. Oid choki inisani Omar Dovid. He said it at that moment where they got together, all of them together. Even Moasu Abaynim, the parents, Hoysal Rishpin Evet Melech Yisrael Omar Yishai, Me'es Hashem Oysa Zois Avlu Echov. All the kids which were in, and the cahoots of telling the father, Muzar Yisrael Echai. Ze Hayoim also Hashem Nogil with Omar Shmuel. So this gathers Gemara. Omar Shmuel, Omar Dos, Omar Yihu. This is all happening in Shmuel Aleph Perek to Zion while Shmuel is coming to visit and to crown and to handpick David to become a Melech Yisrael. Meirdik. We have another minute and a half. Another minute and a half. Schwere Zeiten. You know, it's very hard times. Die ganze meiste Neuron versteht nicht. Der was redt, weiß, der was weiß, redt nicht, und der was redt, weiß nicht. And now was tut sich, more the Kazakh, like Eretz Yisrael is on the fire, and people are sitting and asking. I think that some more the Kazakh, in Rabbi Rucham the Mashgiach sagt, Oitchoki nisoni vatilu li shiur. Normal, you take a person, you ask him, you know, you had a Wild Sorrow, he makes a Suda Seidor, and he walked out. He said, the Tzoro is a Tzoro, and then you have the issue. But you ask the person, would you, if I had to reconstitute